are you ready for rapid fire?
First rapid fire of the week for me. Ready to roll.
All right, here we go. So we did all this because ESPN put out a list of the top 25 plays of the last 25 years. And as I said in the first segment, the only Notre Dame adjacent play on that list is the Bush push in 2005, which is number 14 on their list. So we just gave a lot of our own top plays of the last 25 years, had a lot of input as well. So one of our subscribers, Domer Grizz on the Champions Lounge, says the Bush push was not great, and the only reason it's remembered is because of the controversial rule breaking required to score the touchdown. He says it's memorable and talked about, but not great. Do you buy or sell it?
Well, it was not a great individual football play. It was a great play because of what it meant to college football. So, I mean, I buy it from the premise that it was memorable, but not a great football play, right? Because it technically was illegal, number one. And number two, again, Notre Dame fan, right? But I was standing right there. I don't feel like they should have gotten another play. Like the clock should have run out. And so it was memorable in college football because of all of the things surrounding it. It was absolutely memorable, but it's not a great play, but it's a memorable play. So if it was the top 25 most memorable plays in college football, which I think is what they meant it to be.
Right. The headline is ESPN's top 25 college football plays of the last 25 years.
Like,
so
it's not a great football play.
It's a very broad term. Yeah. Like in terms of greatness, it's not. But that game, it's essentially like how you view that play essentially comes down to what Charlie Weiss said after the game. At the end of the day, they lost. And at the end of the day, Charlie Weiss was still the head coach of the team that lost a great game. So there's no consolation in that, right? So if you're a Notre Dame fan, you obviously don't remember Bush push, fondly, but it is a very memorable play of college football lore. You had Notre Dame, the number one team in the nation, on the ropes, couldn't quite finish them off. Now, as Scott L. said, and you and I agree on this, he said that the play before the Bush push, where the clock ran out and the ball went out at the 2.5-yard line, and Notre Dame won before the BS calls. Like that could have, I think it was Zibikowski got his hat on the ball and, shot it up in the air. And, like his long that ball seemed like it was in the air forever.
Yes.
Forever.
And it did not go forward. It went backwards.
No. Yeah.
And that's a fumble. And the ball and the clock should have run out.
Yep.
It's sour grapes, I guess, and it was 20 years ago, but I don't care.
Right.
That was still
so I agree. The Bush push is not a great play.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's a name for it and people outside of either of the fan bases, like nationally, you say Bush push, you know exactly what you're talking about, right? And that's why it's on a list like this.
Yeah. Yeah. It is absolutely one of the more memorable plays in recent memory of college football, right? I mean, and I say recent, it was 20 years ago. Everybody knows what you're talking about when you say Bush push. Every single person on the planet. And it's because of that play that play is now legal, to be perfectly honest. So,
right.
And if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you can thank Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart for your Super Bowl.
Okay, so we spent the first segment doing Notre Dame's top plays of the last 25 years. Now, and some people nominated some of these, obviously, but we saved these specifically for this. Now we're going to do Notre Dame's top plays from the 2024 season. And I'll be honest with you, Vince, like when I started this, it's like, maybe I'll get 6 or 7. Let's see how many I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that was just off the top of my head.
That's what happens when you go to the national championship game. There's a lot of big plays.
Most of them came during the playoff run.
Right.
But there were others, obviously, that came outside of that. So what would be at the top of your list?
So I cheated a little bit because my number one play is not a play. It's a series of plays.
Okay.
And it's that, like, minute and a half stretch in the Georgia game. Where they got the fumble, the touchdown. Or no, it was a field goal, the fumble, the touchdown, the kickoff return.
Okay.
There was a 17-point swing in a matter of like a minute and a half of clock time. Obviously, there was halftime in between.
Right.
But I remember very vividly sitting in that stadium down in New Orleans with obviously everything that went on, outside of the game, and then the game getting pushed, and then you're in there and you're trying to focus on football when everything else is going on, and the game is just kind of back and forth, and you feel pretty good about Notre Dame and where they're at and all of these different things. And then all of a sudden you get this swing where you get the field goal, you get the strip sack touchdown, you get the kickoff return for a touchdown. At that point, I was like, game over. Notre Dame has got the monkey off their back. Like, they've beaten an SEC team in the playoff.
Right.
Since 1993, like all of the different things that they were able to check off. And I feel like that minute and a half or whatever the time frame was, like that was the turning point for me from being a really good season to being a season that I will never forget.
It happened, and now they have just knocked off the Georgia freaking Bulldogs.
Correct. Because the regular season was awesome.
They finally won one of these slugfests because
both,
like the 2 regular season games against Georgia,
they lost.
Slugfest right down to the wire. And, it's kind of like the USC game. It's like, oh, you feel good about yourself. You took a good team down to the wire. They finally did it. They finally beat a legit team. They ended that 3 decades plus bowl drought of major bowl victories and all that kind of stuff. And Mace AK is in there with you on this stretch as well. It's funny. Like, I understand what you're saying about that, but like my sequence, like if I was going to couple a couple together from the Georgia game, maybe I would put yours even a little bit higher, but the punt play, like, do we call it a fake punt? Where
they came out and then they ran off. Yeah.
They run the punt team off, the offense on. Georgia ends up jumping off sides, and that continues that drive. And then, of course, on that same drive, Riley Leonard with the diving first down play, and both of those things helped Notre Dame eat something like 7.5 minutes or
like
whatever it
was.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And that was, even though they didn't end up getting points out of that, the fact that those 2 plays contributed to them just being able to bleed the clock at the end and play keep away from Georgia.
I think Georgia got the ball back with like 2 minutes to go or less than 2 minutes to go. And then they get a sack and they got no timeouts. And it was just a disaster for Georgia at that point. That was just fun. You know what I mean? Like the sequence that I talked about made me think that they're going to win the game. The sequence you're talking about was just enjoyable to
basically
watch.
Sealed the game.
Because it was just like Notre Dame is just beating the crap out of Georgia right now, just doing what they want. You know what I mean? They were just pounding it into Georgia, right into their face. And then, of course, you get the diving play by Riley Leonard, which I had on my list, obviously, the diving play. But you're right. The whole sequence where they bled that much clock, like that was massive. They beat Georgia in the sequence I was talking about. They took their soul in the sequence you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
it was good beautiful. Differentiation. Yep. Yeah. That's a good way to separate it. Do we like the Gray and Watts, the double pick sixes against USC? Do we, I think we talked about this. Do we couple those together?
I got them together. 2 interception USC. That's what I wrote down. It's a combo. Obviously, singularly Christian Gray with the game that he was having, and the announcers were just freaking loving talking about how they were picking on Christian Gray and all these other things. For him to get that interception in that moment with USC driving to try to tie the score, by the way, for him to get that and then just take it the other direction, that was just awesome. And then of course, Xavier Watts, just the cherry on top of the whole thing. But I really wish they wouldn't have let USC score at the last second of the game because the winning by 3 touchdowns would have been so much better than winning by 2. But
hey,
we'll take it. But
win.
That sequence was awesome.
Okay, Andre says, I'm going to say this out loud. Steve Angeli leading Notre Dame for 3 points at the end of the first half against Penn State.
You can say it, and that's fine. It doesn't fall on it's not on my list. It's not. You can't get sacked twice You can't get sacked twice and get all the credit for what happened there.
It wasn't a.
Sorry.
Again, if we're talking sequences, obviously that drive was very consequential.
It was important. They got points on the board.
Right. Credit where credit is due.
Sure.
He did it. They got the points. They were needed points. They were important.
Right.
Christian Gray's interception against Penn State.
Math. I've got that one written down. And I actually have it. This is another kind of a sequence, right? It was the interception and then the field goal that Mitch Jeter hit to win the game. Like,
yep.
At that point, it was like when Penn State got the ball and they're drive, they're trying to drive and all these other things, and I was legitimately nervous at that point, right? And then Christian Gray comes up with that interception. It's like, oh my God, they're pretty much in field goal range, like right now. And then they were able to obviously kick that field goal to win it. It was like, okay, like that was. I feel like they snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.
And we talked about this yesterday because we were doing the 2 words to describe all the defensive players yesterday, and obviously we were talking about Christian Gray. That was not an easy interception.
No,
that was not an easy play by any means.
Not at all. Like, look, there was no way that his receiver was going to catch that ball, and so Christian Gray was like the only one that even had an attempt at that ball, and going down there and picking it up right off the shoelaces, man, was awesome.
Exactly.
Just awesome.
Exactly. One that I think flies under the radar a little bit from last season is Jeremiah Love's 21-yard touchdown with under 2 minutes to play against Texas A&M in the season opener.
Oh, yeah.
That one gets lost in the shuffle, but they were
so
trailing.
Early.
They were trailing, as they're driving, and he scores that touchdown. It again, I don't think it's going to rank with some of these others because of where they happened in the season. That was a pretty big play itself, I thought. Last year.
No doubt about it.
And like the like you talked about the whole sequence against Georgia, just the Jaden Harrison kickoff return to open the second half. You talk about, momentum, keeping that momentum going from the end of the first half, and then just lightning striking right away in the second half. That was massive.
Well, and what I love the most about that sequence was pretty much the entire sequence was done by transfers.
Right.
And Notre Dame is very picky about their transfers. They don't bring them in bulk, right? They bring them in for a reason. And, kickoff return. He was brought in because he was an All-American kickoff returner. He returns one in the biggest game of his career to that point, right? You had Riley Leonard throwing a touchdown to who did he throw it to? Help me out. Who did he throw the touchdown to? The little slant
against A&M?
No. Against Georgia.
Oh, again, I'm not.
No,
was it Collins? Was it Bo Collins?
That's what I thought. It was to Bo Collins, also a transfer, right? And then you got a field goal in that moment. Mitch Jeter was a transfer. So, like, everything that happened in that sequence was because of a transfer. So I thought
I need to go back and watch these games because, like, I've still got most of them on my. I know I've got at the very least Penn State on my DVR. I think I've got the Georgia game too.
I'm sure you do.
And watch some.
I rewatched the IU game a couple of weeks ago.
Did you?
Just for fun. Great game
for sure. Speaking of which, Jeremiah Love, the touchdown run, after the Watts interception.
Yeah. Which the interception was awesome. We could break that down all day. Jack Kaiser gets in the way. He gets a lot of credit for that interception. And then, obviously Xavier Watts comes up with it. But then the very next play, like, just you want to talk about the loudness of a stadium, right? As soon as he turned that corner, man, the roof just came off that place.
It was on.
It was unbelievable. And I was outside.
Yep.
So I was outside on the little deck area of the press box, and that place just came absolutely unglued, and it was unbelievable.
I mean, most people still think that the 2-yard run against Penn State was more impressive.
From a grit, like, not wanting to go down, all of the yes.
As physical as that game went,
I agree.
And like as beat up as he was
I agree.
at that point, because remember the sprained MCL against USC, and it was iffy,
Sure.
but he was able to play against Indiana, and he obviously had aggravated it, so he wasn't 100% to be able to give what he gave against Penn State.
Oh,
to turn in,
absolutely. But I mean, to your point, he was also injured for that run against IU as well. And he was able to just put on the afterburners and just outrun everybody.
No, he was, but again, he had a couple weeks in between where he could rest a little bit, is what I'm saying. He had more time to rest for that game, and then between that game and the accumulation of that game, followed by Georgia quickly and Penn State.
Yeah.
There was a lot of physical,
wear and tear there.
Taken by then. Yeah,
no doubt about it. But I would say if I had to rank them, I would say, yes, I agree with you on that. But man, that play against IU, it set the tone for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like that game at that point felt like it was over.
Right.
So, yeah.
Leonard Moore really doesn't have a lot of signature plays from last year, as great as he played, other than maybe chasing down Tyler Shuck, the Louisville quarterback.
That was before he was Leonard Moore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
He hadn't really. That was the beginning of his coming out party, I would say. But he endeared himself to Notre Dame fans because of the hustle and because he basically turned what would have been or what was the worst play that they gave up all day into a positive for Notre Dame. So, yeah, that was a great play.
I am Tenzin. I am the son of Aang says it was also actually allowed on TV. ESPN did a good job feeding crowd noise. I'm sure he's talking about the Jeremiah Love run. And that's one thing like that. That's a note that I think NBC could, take from ESPN is turn that crowd mic up a little bit. People would actually like to hear more of that crowd atmosphere, especially when you've got a big game like that. That's like, sometimes ESPN maybe, could back it off the 11, and bring it down to like a 9.
Yeah,
but,
fair.
Because like it'll ride up pretty high sometimes, it seems like, and you have a harder time hearing the announcers. But like in that case, for that kind of atmosphere, I think it was
it
was warranted.
Let's go.
Yep. We kind of touched on this one earlier. The Great House touchdown against Penn State, obviously, huge for a lot of reasons, and just the moves that he put on those guys and the significance of that touchdown as well in a game that was obviously, hard fought right down to the end, that he was able to, that they were able to come up with a touchdown like that like those kind of plays had been lacking all season. And even though it wasn't a long pass, what Great House was able to do with that, just a huge play all the way around.
Yeah, that was and that was a big moment in that game too. The Penn State, the Great House catch against Penn State, like that was either to tie it or break the tie. I forget exactly where it was in the game, but it was a big moment because it was like, oh my God. I remember going out of my mind watching that in my friend's basement, getting very, very excited when that play occurred. So that was a big one, big turning point in that game.
Yeah, if I could find the right box score, let me dial it up here real quick and see. I wanted to say it tied the game.
Okay,
after the
they were behind,
tied the game with about 4.5 minutes to go.
So they were behind.
Yep. All right. Any others from the 2024 season?
That's everything I had on my list.
So, again, Notre Dame didn't make the list of the 25 top plays of the last 25 years. Is there any play that Notre Dame has had, like of all these plays that we've talked about on this show, is there any Notre Dame play that you would say is worthy of consideration for a list like that?
So any Notre Dame play this year that
on the overall, any Notre Dame play that we just talked about, would it
it have been in the top 25 all time?
Would it be worthy of being considered for ESPN's list of the top 25 college football plays of the last 25 years?
Yes, the Love run against Penn State should have been.
So you would put that on there. See, I would put the Indiana run on before that.
There you go.
Because one, it was 90 whatever yards.
98
yards.
Yeah.
And it was the first touchdown scored of the expanded college football playoff era.
So it's historic.
Yeah.
You're giving it some historic value.
So I think that you could at least, find a way to put it in there at around 24, 25, even if it's at the bottom of the list. I would put that in there because of the overall significance. First playoff game played in a home stadium, first touchdown scored in that game. And it obviously helped propel Notre Dame to a national championship.
I could see that. I could see that. And the thing about these top 25, and I didn't look at the entire list, but the magnitude of the game has to come into play with these moments, right? Yeah. Because like Mike said, the book to Boykins to win the Citrus Bowl, against LSU. Like, yeah, that was a great individual play, but it was the Citrus Bowl. Nobody gave a crap about the Citrus Bowl. So like, that's why I wouldn't put that on an all-time top 25 list, because the moment wasn't big enough. The moment in the IU game, big moment. Moment in the Penn State game, big moment.
I would say that's easily, maybe not even easily, but that, like think of the list that we just ran down for last season alone, but like even before last season, that would have been top 25 from a Notre Dame perspective, probably. But yeah,
that's fine.
I don't think you're going to put that on a list of college football's 25 best plays in the last 25 years.
Right.
All right, I was just looking at a comment. So you're going the Penn State love touchdown run. I'm going the IU love touchdown.
Well, they're both massive, and I wouldn't be upset about either one.
Nope, I don't think you could argue. You're splitting hairs at that point.
Right. I do find it interesting, though, that Notre Dame, a positive Notre Dame one, did not make the top 25 list. That one, that does surprise me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but again, like think of the plays, like when you're talking about like big picture significance, Notre Dame hadn't won a major bowl game.
Oh, you're right.
In 30 years.
The last 25 years, they've been.
I think that the most significant play, and I think somebody put this up there in the chat, that you could have come up with before last year would probably be the Stanford goal line stand from 2012.
Were there any plays from the 24 season, or is this all pre-24 season?
Oh,
sorry, kind of catching you off guard on that one.
No, I'm just kind of going back and looking.
Because if it includes the 24 season, I'm sorry.
I mean, it does include the 24 season, but there are a lot.
Yeah, okay.
What?
I feel like they should have had a Notre Dame from this year. There should have been a play from this year on that list if they're including 2024.
Well, again, so one of the Jeremiah Love plays?
Absolutely.
Or
honestly, if you just want to make me happy, pick one.
Like the back, like again, they went Appalachian State beating Michigan for 2007 for a quote unquote play. So like they were a little bit loose with the what they call the play. That was obviously a game. So like I almost would have said the back-to-back pick sixes against USC because of the length and the game away to send Notre Dame into the playoffs.
Yeah.
That might have been my
But
I just scanned through the list and I didn't see any that actually came from the 24 season.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, I just feel like there was a lot that went on this past season.
But there's not in Ohio. Now, I'm not going to say there's not. Okay. They actually put Ohio State wins the national championship game against Miami after the pass interference call in the end zone. I don't know if you remember that. And it was 4th and 3 at the 5. It was initially incomplete. They changed it to pass interference, and Ohio State got another crack at it and scored. So that was Ohio State's only play on this list, was from 2003. So, but my point is, there were no Ohio State plays from the 24 season.
Yeah, either. When they won a national championship. So makes perfect sense.
All right, good stuff. Good memory lane as we went through all those different plays, both last season and the last 25 years as well. So fill in the blank, Vince. Notre Dame had a big football recruiting weekend, and it's blank. Then an old school starter jacket was featured prominently in Notre Dame's recruiting weekend photos of players and coaches.
It's completely legit. Like that's absolute. Like they had a whole like stage basically set up with all these different things. I mean, they had it's funny because they had guys on a gold phone with a cord coming off of it.
Right.
Those guys have never touched a phone with a cord coming off of it, number one. Nor had they probably ever touched a starter jacket. And I love it. I bring it all back. I think it's fantastic.
They had it like hanging up on the coat rack in the back, but then a couple of guys had it like draped around their shoulders. And that was the first one that I saw. One of the guys, I think it was the tight end, had it like wrapped around.
It was like his shoulder pads. Like
yeah, it was on his shoulder pads. And I was like, hold it. That's the silky smooth, satiny starter jacket, baby. And that was awesome. That was awesome to see that in there. Because like you said, it was a lot of bling bling and a lot of new stuff.
Everything was like, gold plated, and then they brought in the starter jacket.
Old school starter jacket.
Yeah,
that's
man.
Right. That's right.
Quality.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't know who's in charge over there now these days with these photo shoots, but I like the props.
They did it. They nailed it. They nailed it. All right. We are going to guess
that's right.
the over-under season win total for a team that went to the college football playoffs last year, the SMU Mustangs.
The Stangs.
Yes. Are you ready to go through the schedule?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I love the ones that don't have a logo, by the way. Those are pretty much going to be wins.
They start off with East Texas A&M.
Win.
Then they have Baylor.
Win.
Then Missouri State.
Win.
TCU.
Unless something's changed to my knowledge, I'm going to go with a win.
Probably a win.
The Fighting Steve Angeli's.
Yeah, Syracuse. I think that's a maybe.
That's a maybe. Fine, I'll give that a maybe because you have to go to SMU though. It's an SMU home game,
right?
So that's going to hurt, the team that wants to play in the dome all the time.
Yeah,
I'll give it a maybe. That's fine.
It's still Dallas. It's not like you're playing in
True.
crazy weather. Dallas in October. Stanford. That's a win. At Clemson.
That's a toss up or a maybe, right? That's how we do it, right? Maybe.
Sure.
Or are you saying that's a loss? Because Clemson's like a top 5 pre-ranked.
I'm leaning towards a loss, but I can call it a maybe until we see what SMU looks like this year. Wake Forest.
Win.
Miami is a maybe.
It's a maybe.
Boston College.
Dub.
Probably a dub. Louisville.
And Louisville is just different every year.
I know.
I'm going to give them a win here, but I wouldn't be upset if we go maybe.
Okay. And then Cal to close the season.
I think that's a win. I got 9.
Man, you're pretty high.
I am. Well, I'm going to put the number at 8.5. That's where I'm going to put the number. So 8.5 is my guess, even though I said 9 wins.
Let me see. Let me double check something here. I think that's going to be mine as well.
All right.
8.5. I was in the 7.5, 8.5 range, and it's just.
I think there's some games on there that I think SMU is probably going to take. I know they're throwing a lot of NIL money around down there in Dallas. We all know that it's down there. If you paid any attention in the 80s, but I think SMU tasted some sweet victory last year. I think they want more of it.
Sweet victory. Josh,
sweet victory.
Josh says 7.5.
Okay.
PA Irish guy and Swang Dong say 8.5.
That's quite the avatar.
Yes. I didn't notice until the end of the show yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, man. I noticed it last week. I was like, wow, we're leaving that up there for a while.
I'm debating in my head a little bit between the 8.5 and the 7.5. I think that looking at their schedule, though, 8.5 is a pretty fair number for a team that just went to the playoffs. So we're both locked in. We're guessing SMU's over-under win total. 8.5 is what we think it will be, and it is 8.5.
There it is.
and it's fairly even as well. Over is minus 114 odds, under is minus 106.
Oh wow.
So not too far off. Like they're pretty firm.
Yeah, and I would want to see, can they, obviously can they do it 2 years in a row? That kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting. They're kind of in the same category for me as like an IU. Can they sustain the success that they had, or was it a 1-year wonder? I think that's going to be a legitimate thing to think about. And I do think, though, their NIL is going to still be legit, though. They'll have more NIL to throw around than IU will, I think. Yeah. So more possibility for sustainment. That's not a word. For sustaining it in Dallas than I think in Bloomington. But we'll see. We'll see.
Let's switch to NFL a little bit. ESPN's Peter Schrager says after the Bears hired Ben Johnson as their head coach this offseason, all the pressure now is on Caleb Williams going into his second season. Scale of 1 to 10, how make or break do you see this season for Williams, Vince?
Like a 3. I really do not think it is make or break. They're invested in him for at least throughout his rookie contract, right? They're not getting rid of him after year number 2. And you've got a brand new head coach. I realize he's a quote unquote offensive genius and he's young and he's all these things that are great. And it was a good hire by the Bears, but we haven't seen him be a head coach yet, right? So it's a good hire on paper. We're going to have to see how does he mesh with Caleb and all of those different things. Look, I have not been shy about the fact that I am not a Caleb Williams fan, although I am a Bears fan. It's never a make or break season in year 2. I'm sorry. Like that's a little much. And the Bears have never had good quarterback play, so they're willing to kind of wait it out and see what it looks like.
And it's a bit of a mulligan. I think you're absolutely right about the rookie contract. They're at least going to let that play out after taking him last year. And this is basically a reset. This is them honestly realizing what they should have realized before last season. And they should have made a coach. They should not have had Matt Eberflus as Caleb Williams' head coach, and who they brought in as offensive coordinator, the guy from Seattle. Like that was just a total whiff on the part of the Bears organization. So this is a reset for Caleb Williams. So I would not say it is all on the line for him this year. Like all the pressure is on him. So I agree. I think that my number is probably a 3 as well in terms of how much I think that this is make or break. Like this is the start. Probably next year is going to be make or break because it'll be year 3 for him, year 2 for him with Ben Johnson. Like you expect some huge growth. I think you expect good growth this year. You would expect huge growth next year. And at that point, you're going to know, like, is this our guy or not? And if not, we're drafting another quarterback again.
100%. He's going to, like, if we have this question next year, right, then that number goes up, right? That number goes significantly up, in my opinion, because that's year 3. Rookie contracts are 4, right?
Well, 4, and then there's the 5th-year option with the first round guys. But there is an option, so you're committed to 4 years basically.
Yeah. I do think that year 3 though is going to be more of a make or break, right? Because the pendulum at least has to be going this way. You know what I mean? He can't be a failure in year 2, but I would still give him year 3, and then we start talking about do we need to draft a quarterback in Williams' 4th year? Because if he's not where he's supposed to be, they're going to be drafting fairly high, right? Yep. So, what does that look like? I'd be all good if 2 years from now the Bears draft CJ Carr when he comes out.
Oh, so there you go. All right. That's what you're hoping for.
Yes, that's the perfect scenario. All right. That's the perfect scenario.
Right. But as we know, it's like we never get what we want when it comes to Notre Dame in our pro teams.
No, we don't. I'm clinging to the Cole Kmet at tight end.
I know.
Right now.
I know. So after missing last year's Nathan's hot dog eating competition, Joey Chestnut is going to take part in this year's 4th of July event. They have come to terms, and he will be back. Scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you now to watch, Vince?
Okay. So there's kind of 2 scales here. So scale of 1 to 10 likely to watch is fairly low because I'm going to be on vacation. but I am interested. I have this kind of sick fascination with the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And so at the very least, I like to find out what happens.
Right.
And maybe see like a bit of a replay. You know what I mean? So I'm going to put it at like a 2 for watching it live, because like I think it was 2 years ago I was on vacation and we happened to be eating lunch at the time, and they had ESPN on the TV at the restaurant. So we watched it. You know what I mean? My wife was significantly grossed out, so were the girls, but like the rest of us were all watching.
It's always like when they've got the red Gatorade and stuff,
and
they're dunking the buns in the red Gatorade. It looks disgusting.
It's nasty. But for whatever reason, it's like a car accident. I can't look away. I want to see who wins. And it's like an 8 or a 9 as far as like me wanting to know what happened.
I'm at a 9. 9. It was like totally uneventful without him last year. Even though he blows everybody away, it's like nobody cared. Nobody wants the competition to be close. They just want to see the guy who can wolf down and like whatever he does with that throat and get those hot dogs down and the nasty soggy buns as well. And so
the worst part.
I get like he was like he did some kind of like endorsement for like a like a fake meat kind of place or something like, and so that's where like the whole thing blew up, I guess. And so they got him back, and I think it's good for everybody. But I'm like you, like I very rarely watch live, but ESPN, typically replays it a couple times.
Oh
yeah. So I'll like watch after the fact and stuff like that.
I do get a kick out of like the MC guy who's been there forever, and he like has these long soliloquies about each person that comes out. Right. It's entertaining. It is.
He's the broccoli eating champion of the world.
Yes.
He's the hot pepper eating champion of the world. Yeah.
Hilarious. It's hilarious because it's such a show. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I would be the kind of person that would ever want to go and stand out there and watch it happen, but it's kind of like one of those bucket lists, like you can say you were there kind of a deal. I mean, I've never been to New York, so I highly doubt I would actually be there on the 4th of July. It's kind of a bucket list item, though. I'm not going to lie.
I've actually eaten at that Nathan's.
Have you really?
It's right down a couple years. Like 1 year they had the Big East baseball tournament out there. It's it's where it's in Brooklyn, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's, like Coney Island or like the amusement park, and the Brooklyn Cyclones baseball team. I was trying to think of the name. That was the stadium is right there, and then there's like an amusement park and the whole thing right next to it. And so the Nathan's hot dog place is like right there, right outside where the Brooklyn Cyclones play. So I got a hot dog there.
There you go.
So I can say that.
So you can at least check that part off.
Yeah,
I like
exactly. There's nobody standing around eating like 60 hot dogs though.
No. And buns. It's always the and buns that get me.
The man who could eat 60 hot dogs and buns in 5.5 minutes.
It's nasty.
Yes. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Appreciate you as always. A lot of great input with the play suggestions and all that kind of stuff. Now, I understand you are at least partway through the town.
I am. It was a busy day today. Okay. And obviously I had the afternoon show, which cut out, a significant chunk of time. But I will have it done, no questions asked, by tomorrow's show.
All right.
I think I'm going to finish it off tonight.
We can discuss then. We can discuss.
Both of the quotes that you were talking about yesterday have already occurred. And so I got a good chuckle out of both of those quotes.
Who's Cowie taking?
Yeah.
There goes college soccer.
There goes college soccer. That's great. That's so funny. It's just so random. Right? It's just so random. Like the guy's totally serious, too.
I know.
All right, which guy are we taking? And he's like, he goes up to him and he's like, okay, we're going to go do this. And you can never ask me about it again.
Right. And he pauses, looks at him. Who's guy we take?
Yeah. Right. All right. Okay.
It's your ride or die, man. Like that's the guy you want in your corner, I guess.
I know.
Right?
I know. Oh my gosh. And he tries to get out of the guy, like why they're there. He's like, I have no idea. Like, what are you talking about?
What'd you do to my friend?
Yeah.
What'd you do to make him mad?
That's my brother.
My brother. Yeah, that's right.
Like, wow. Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like you're enjoying it.
I am enjoying it so far. I am very curious to see kind of where this goes. You know.
All right.
Because there's a lot going on right now.
There is a lot going on. And there'll be even more going on.
Because I feel like they're hot on their trail. The FBI is hot on the trail.
John Hamm's coming. That's
yes,
right.
he is. John Hamm is coming.
Remember this one. We are a national organization.
Okay.
All right. Hit the like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll get Vince's review of the town at the end of the mailbag at Rapid Fire. We will talk to you then on IB Nation Sports Talk.